Hi, friends. It's me, Sarah, your Christian forgiveness coach, and you are listening to or watching Forgive Everyone for Everything Every Day Right Away. This is episode number 78, and we're going to talk about forgiving someone who broke your heart. Okay. So let's talk about heartbreak. Humans break each other's hearts. We have all broken someone's heart, and we have all had our hearts broken. All of us. This is something we share and have in common as a member of the human race, all of us. Kind of reminds me of the game Monopoly. If you play the game, everyone goes to jail at some point. But there's these cool get out of jail free cards. You still have to go to jail. You can just get out sooner with the card. So we can learn to have those get out of jail free cards in our pockets when it comes to heartbreak. And that's how I think about the tools and the strategies that I've learned around forgiveness and mental health, processing emotions, how we talk to ourselves in our minds, the way we treat ourselves, the way we think and renew our minds. Those are all my get out of heartbreak free cards. So, of course, I still experience it. I still go to that jail, but I get out easier with these tools that I share. Without them, we might stay in pain and suffering and resentment and anger and sorrow for years and years. And when we do that, we can sometimes miss out on love and connection with ourselves and with others. And that is not what God wants for us, which is why Jesus puts such an emphasis on forgiveness, I think, in his teachings and in his example. So, heartbreak, as you all know, is one of the most painful things we go through as humans. But we can prolong it and make it worse, or we can learn ways to process it and move through it quicker. One way, of course, is processing the emotion, processing that pain. Now, there's a difference between processing and just feeling it. There's a difference between being with the pain and in the pain. So let me tell you one way that I process it. So let's say the event or the person or whatever comes to mind, and you feel that heartache, you feel that heartbreak, you feel loneliness, you feel the tears come up, the lump in the throat, the heartbeat maybe changes, your tummy feels nervous, whatever those bodily vibrations are that happen in your being. I focus on that. I focus on those sensations and I name it. So I will do something like this. I will repeat over and over when I notice that I'm in it. I will just say to myself, this is heartache. This is heartache. This is heartache. And I just be with it. I just experience it. And you know what happens when I do that? It moves through. I just stay with it. I watch it move. I let it do whatever it wants. If the tears want to come out, I let them. If I want to cry or wail or yell or scream, I do. I just let it move through my body. And it does. It moves through and then it's gone. And then I can breathe again and I can feel peace again. And I let it do that as often as it needs to. I had this interesting idea about the heart, right? The heart being, the organ that pumps blood through your body. And while we may feel like that physical pain, that physical constriction, we think it's our heart that hurts, and we think it's our heart maybe that's even causing it, but it's not. It's actually our mind that causes that emotional pain, not that organ that pumps blood through our body. It's our subconscious mind. It's interesting because in Proverbs, it says in Proverbs 23, verse 7, it says, "For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he." And I don't think the Bible is talking about the heart organ in your chest here. It's talking about the heart in this verse refers to the brain, but not just the brain, but the subconscious mind. Sub meaning below, like lower mind. Some people you've probably heard of them describe this lower mind as like the monkey brain or the lizard brain. It's not your higher thinking mind. So what is truly in a man's heart is what's in his subconscious mind. And that's why it's so important to be aware of what we're allowing in our hearts, meaning our minds. So I make sure I pay attention to what I'm thinking. I make sure I'm not making up and believing stories, fictional made up stories in my mind. So I don't entertain the thoughts my brain is offering me that are lies, that are not truths. So let's say it was a romantic partner. Those thoughts might sound like, oh, this person was the love of my life, or we were meant to be together, or I'll never feel that way again, or no one will ever love me. These thoughts are lies that only cause added pain and suffering. And the longer we believe and entertain them, the more confused and lost we become, and the longer we stay in heartbreak and prevent ourselves from moving on. To put it quite bluntly, we break our own hearts here when we believe these kinds of thoughts. So maybe your heart's broken for another reason. Maybe a loved one has passed, or a friendship has ended, or you lost everything you own in a fire, or your child has been diagnosed with something. Heartbreak is about loss, and it hurts. It's supposed to. But some examples of the ways we break our own hearts is with our thinking, with, telling ourselves things like, I'll never be happy again. You know, moving on doesn't mean we have to forget the person if we don't want to. Maybe the person who broke your heart was a loved one, like a parent or a friend, and you don't want to forget them, and you don't have to, but you can move on from the crippling heartbreak by using the two examples I gave earlier, processing the emotion and watching your thinking. And maybe you do want to forget the person, and that's fine too. In time, it's absolutely possible to do that with practice. And I talked about that a couple episodes ago, the one called Renewing Your Mind. I talked about the commitment and the determination and exercise of refocusing your thoughts whenever they start thinking about something you don't want to be thinking about. And of course, forgiveness is a huge part of getting through heartbreak. And it may be the most challenging step for some of us. The biggest thing that gets in the way of forgiving someone who broke our hearts is how we argue with reality, how we get stuck in how it wasn't supposed to happen this way. How could they do this to us? Why would they hurt us? Why would they betray us or abandon us? Why did they have to leave? Why did it have to happen the way it did? And then on top of that, we either blame them or we blame ourselves or we blame something. And forgiveness is what takes away that blame. Forgiveness is accepting what is, even the awful parts, the unfair parts, the parts that just don't make any sense. It's accepting that we don't have control over what happens in this world or the choices other people make. And then lastly, I want to emphasize again the importance of how we treat ourselves, especially during heartbreak. One thing I love to think about is I imagine what Jesus's inner dialogue was like how he talked to himself. If he did have that inner critic voice, I can only imagine he always had an answer for it, like, hey, God only makes masterpieces, or something like that. Just like when he was tempted in the by the enemy in the wilderness after he was baptized, before he started his ministry, he was tempted, right? I want to read that to you in Matthew 4, verses 1 through 11. I'm going to read that to you now. So the Spirit led Jesus into the desert to be tempted by the devil. After 40 days and nights without food, Jesus was hungry, and the devil tempted Jesus to turn stones into bread, to which he replied, human beings cannot live on bread alone, but need every word God speaks. The second temptation was for Jesus to throw himself from the highest point of the temple and order angels to catch him. Jesus replied, do not put the Lord your God to the test. And then finally, the devil offered Jesus all the kingdoms of the world in return for worshiping him. And Jesus replied, worship the Lord your God and serve only him. So I love that, right? Everything the enemy threw at him, he had a solid reply rooted in belief. So the enemy went away, left him alone. So, what do you reply to your inner critic when it tempts you or ridicules you or belittles you? It will never go away if we continue to bully ourselves. Life is handing you heartbreak. I promise. It's a guarantee. How you treat yourself in the midst of it is everything. And it is completely up to you, and it is totally in your control. If the Lord blesses me with 50 more years of life, I can say with absolute certainty that I will spend my last breaths here on this earth knowing that I was kind to myself. I can certainly choose to believe that I was kind to other people, but ultimately, they're the ones who get to decide that. But I can know that I was kind to me. And I want that for all of you too. Till next time. Bye.